Well, thank you for having us here. I'm Mike Hardin. I'm the owner of Harcon. This is Jeff Mills, and he runs our North Carolina office in Greensboro. And we are a concrete formwork subcontractor only. We work throughout the Southeast. We've got an office in Atlanta, one in Birmingham, one in Nashville, one in New Orleans, and one in North Carolina. Been in business 28 years. We've been through the cycle of doing formwork only and then doing a lot of turnkey during the downturn. And after the downturn, we said we're going to put our resources where we can make the most money, and that was what we self-perform. So we focused on that. We started finding customers that needed us, that were turnkey companies that were growing. And so about 40% of our business now is with turnkey companies. The others directed to the GC. But back in, back in 2005, I remember, back in 2005, we had a great year. However, we were so spread thin. We had 600 employees spread out all over the place. And we made a lot of money that year, but we lost $1 million in labor. And so at the end of 2005, we said, we're going to have a productivity initiative. We really didn't understand what it was. We thought we did. And so I started writing a weekly productivity letter, and it caused me to have to learn more about productivity, the effects of weather, the effects of crew and pre-planning, and so many different things I'll go over with you today. And it was an accountability tool. I started taking classes on creativity and innovation at Georgia Tech and at Disney, and we started having a productivity manual and just all kinds of pre-planning checklists. And so we got down to New Orleans, opened an office 10 years ago, and we saw that a lot of the GCs were clueless. They would bring a load of something in, of our equipment, and say, put it right here. The very next day, they're saying, move it, I've got to put a pipe in or something. And you didn't know this yesterday? Are you kidding me? And there were so many things that our customers were causing us to lose money on. We said, we've got to teach them. And so I started doing a productivity seminar like this. I've done it probably 100 and some times for the Lean Construction Institute and Southern Polytech and a lot of GCs. And the whole idea of today is to just get some things on your radar. You guys are going to get it because you do it. Some of the GCs I go to, they're clueless. They go, why, how can I use this? Because they don't self-perform the work. They really don't get it. So I want it to be more interactive. If you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me, interrupt me. It's a whole lot better if I can answer your specific questions. I start with this slide because, first of all, how many of you guys see an old lady? Raise your hand. About a fourth of them. How many see a young lady? There were a couple didn't see anybody. There's the old lady, there's her eye, there's her nose, there's her mouth, there's her chin. She's looking down that way. The young lady is right here, there's her nose, her eye looking out that way. The reason I start with this is it's a perception thing. We all have perceptions of how we see things. And what we found was a lot of the labor on the job, the carpenters, laborers, their idea of what we were trying to implement with productivity was to work them harder, get more out of them, cut down on their breaks, get them there early. And we had to change that perception and say, no, it's just the opposite of that. We want you to be fresher for longer. We want you to work smarter. And it's just like with safety. You never arrive. You never finally teach everybody and they all get it because your labor force is constantly changing. And so you're having to constantly teach people what that means and what you're trying to achieve. And you have to get it to the worker level. I'll show you some of the tools that we use to get it, just like with safety. How do you get it to that worker level to build a culture? And that's what we found was it's a cultural thing. It's just like safety. You have to build a culture of people that understand what productivity really is. Here's a graph I like. It has two different time periods. Here's from 1987 to 95, productivity growth. and then from 95 to 99. So this is the latter years, this is the earlier years. And you'll see anything along this line meant that the productivity growth in this time period is the same as that time period. Well, all these trades up here, they have greater productivity growth in the latter years than the earlier years. Look where construction is. It's negative in both time periods. And it's almost like we're walking backwards, but now we're starting to run backwards. And I don't know if you've noticed the workforce that we have. It's not what we had before. And there's a lot that we do in the construction industry that we just haven't learned. We don't have the tools, the people. We're so labor intensive. You know, there's a lot of companies that are going lean, and their idea of lean is pull planning. Well, that's one tool, just one tool. And that'd be like saying safety is silica draining. You got silica draining, you're good with safety. How far off is that? It's craziness to even think that way, but in a lot of people's mind, that's their perception. So we've got to change something. This is over time showing all non-farm industries compared to the construction industry. And you can see it changes over time. And look at the difference now. Ours has been going negative over time. This is just up to 2000. I'd like to see what a current slide looks like because I think it's gotten worse over time. And the busier you get, just like we were back in 2005 with 600 employees, you get so many people, it's hard to manage all those employees. And with productivity, the requirement for employees goes down. That's fewer people to manage, fewer people to get hurt. There's all kinds of benefits that come about from being more productive.
Where is the moment we need it the most? You kick up the leaves and the magic is lost. Tell me your blue skies fade to gray, and tell me your passion's gone away, and I don't need no care or stand in the line, you make a smile, the coffee go. Tell me your life's been way offline, you fall to pieces every time. Because you had a bad day.
When I see that, I cringe because, it had to hurt. Well, the reason I have that is we have had a bad day. And this study was done by Dr. James Adrian. I recommend you look him up. He's got a quarterly productivity letter that he puts out. We've learned a lot from him. But through his studies, he shows that only 50% of your day is actually productive. He breaks down all these different time punch lists, late and inaccurate information, waiting on resources, accidents, substance abuse, multiple material handling is a big one. All kinds of different things that affect us in our daily work and why we can't be productive. Well, based on that, there's been all kinds of studies done. And FMI, are y'all familiar with FMI, Sales Management? They have some really good courses. I'm going to pass a couple of these around. Here's one, Improving Construction Productivity. And they have another one. They asked me to be their featured speaker one year at their Operational Excellence class. It's a really good class. I'd highly recommend it. So in Orlando, it's a 2-day class. They do a productivity report. And I'd recommend you get in touch with them and get that report. These slides came from this report. I'll pass this around. They do a study every year, and they ask owners of companies to respond to different questions. And this year, they asked, identify the top 5 items that impact productivity the most in your company. The responses were the lack of planning skills at the field management level, lack of communication skills at the field management level, poor communication between project managers and field managers, lack of technical training, that's a big one now, and a cultural resistance to change. Pick on somebody. You're the one. You're crossing your arms. Cross your arms. You're right over left. I'm left over right. Are you right-handed or left-handed? You're left-handed? Okay, well, he's weird. Let's go to somebody else. Everybody cross their arms. Sorry, I didn't do that. Everybody is kind of picks the way they cross their arm, one way or another, and there's no right way to do it, but do it the other way. It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? And there's lots of things about you that culturally, and there's no reason, you can be right or left-handed, it doesn't really matter. Everybody, you have lots of right-handers this way. Same way with your hands. You cross your fingers. I'm right over left, you're left over right. It's just you, and you do it the other way, and it feels weird. And that's what it is with productivity. When you start changing, there's a cultural resistance to it. And the longer you've been doing it one way, if I paid you to do it the other way, you'd be all about me paying you. But then when you go back to doing your own thing, you kind of just go back to what's comfortable to you. And it's very natural. And you, as a company, and as a leader, you have to figure out, how do I get them to make that change? Because it's very difficult. And sometimes you have to let them go, even if they've been with you 14, 15 years. And we had to do that. There were some guys that they didn't get it. And it's kind of like with safety. You guys, Mark, if you had a guy that was on your job and he wouldn't wear a hard hat, what would you do?
You gotta go.
You gotta go, man. But what happens when they're unproductive? If a GC has a sub that's unproductive, he tells them to bring more of their unproductive people out there. It's like, for real? But that's the mentality. They don't get it. They don't understand it. It's the same thing. Get subs that are productive to make your jobs go better. You've got a lot to gain from that. Going back to that example, if 50% of the time was productive and 50% was unproductive, let's look at the numbers. There's some reasons for it that even the productive, the good part of the day, if a third of it was industry related, that's what he determined, this was the unproductive time. A third was management related and a third was labor related. Now, the industry related, you got one-of-a-kind projects, unpredictable weather, you're all spread out all over the place, all kind of conflicts, and the list goes on and on. You can't control these things. They're totally out of your control. And so no matter how hard you try, that's what we as an industry have to live with. We don't have a factory where we're in there working. Some companies have started doing a lot of makeup before the job, and we try to do that in our warehouse. We got a new 33,000 square foot warehouse with all kinds of production facilities and welding stuff to where we can do a lot before the job starts indoors, where it's a controlled environment. There's reasons for management: poor planning, inadequate estimates, lack of training, lack of productivity standards. How many of y'all do estimating? I'm sure you use some kind of standard. Hopefully it's a productivity standard, so many square feet per man hour. If you have a standard, when you're bidding a job, are you getting the jobs that are harder than the standard or easier than the standard? Either one. Hard, always harder. Good answer. What happens is, you bid the job, you have a standard, you bid the job, you get the job that's harder than the standard. What happens? The feedback you get from the field is that we can't do it for that. Or even in the numbers you look at the numbers that come in like, ooh, we can't do it for that. So what happens? You raise your standard, and then you get the jobs harder than that, and then you raise your standard. And then pretty soon you've estimated your way out of getting any work because you didn't know what went into the standard. And so you have to really look at historical data on all kinds of different variables. Did we work overtime on that job? What are the things that affected our standard on that job, and have different standards for different types of operations. For project controls, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And basically leadership, it comes down to having good leaders, whether it's the company or the district manager or the superintendent, or it's somebody that's driving it. They gotta be talking about it all the time until people finally just say, I'm fed up with your productivity, and then you're finally probably getting to them. But it takes somebody driving it, just like with safety. It takes someone just constantly driving that. And then there's reasons for labor. Lack of training is probably one of the biggest. Cultural, as I said before. Sometimes union. A lot of times they're working for a job. Those workers, they're out there, they see it as a job. At the end of the job, I'm going to work for somebody else. It's not a career thing. And so they view it differently. And you have to help them, show them how you want to keep them working and move them around and train them. Lack of information and feedback. People need to know how they're doing. Can I improve? How am I doing compared to everybody else? And I'll show you one of the tools we implemented to do that. Improper tools and equipment supply. We started using all kind of battery-powered stuff and tools. We let people, used to I wouldn't let people buy tools. And now it's like, oh, you got a great tool. Let me see you do this. So let's go through the numbers. I just took this as an example. Fictitious company, looking at their cost, profits down here, 2.5%, say. And if these, we'll just accept these as given. So let's make some assumptions. Those are given. And 50% of that time that they're working, that labor number, but remember the direct labor cost was almost $14 million out of the $24 million. 50% of it's non-productive. 1/3 of it was labor related, you can control that, and 1/3 was management related, you can control that. And let's say that the superintendent could eliminate 15% of the non-productive labor related, that portion right there, and that management could eliminate 15% of the management related. So what do you think the increase, the dollar impact on that 15% in that company? What's the bottom line effect? Any ideas? Just give me a percentage wise. Just what kind of percentage increase in profits?
Probably 30%.
30%, okay. Well, let's look through the numbers. If it's 50% of the labor and you're controlling 2/3 of it, and it's 15% of that you're going to improve, that's 111% increase in profit with those numbers up there. What's the maximum? What if you could control all that? What is your total potential? Well, that's 50%, and it's 100%. I didn't put that calculation in there, but it's a 748% increase in profits. There is nothing and if you're a labor-intensive company, there's nothing you can do in your company that's going to have a bigger effect on the bottom line than the increase in productivity. And it's not just construction. It's lots of companies, lots of different types of industries. An example is a 2% improvement is about almost just 10 minutes a day is a 20%. A 10% is about 48 minutes better improvement. That's a 100% increase in profitability. That's a huge number, huge number. And it's true with even sports. For a baseball batter, what's the difference between that? What is an average batting average? 250. So let's say that you went from 250 to 300. If you were out there working to improve, that's only 1/4 of the hits, the ball's coming at you that you're hitting. That's a 20% increase. That's probably, if you're batting 300, a 20% increase is probably millions of dollars to you. I mean, and you're still only hitting 30% of them. And that's kind of how it is in construction. And the companies that are just going about it being average, and they're accepting average is okay, they're going to be left behind by the companies that really get productivity and do something about it to make your guys more profitable as a company. But those individuals too, you start attracting the right people. We found that, based on the bonuses they can get, it's easier to get them to come to work for you because they hear, I can make more money there. Well, they're not making more money because we're just elected to pay people. It's we're attracting the people that are incentivized to go out and really do a good job. And that's what you want. You want to attract people all over the industry when they hear, wow, Harcon's very productive. I want to go to work for there because that means I can make a bigger bonus. Here's another FMI slide. It said, identify the 3 largest external challenges for improving productivity. So if y'all can see this, it says poor quality of plans and specs. Are those getting better or worse? A whole lot worse. I can't tell you how many times we put something in. We have engineers in-house that go through them and they spend an amazing amount of time trying to find all the details and get the answers to all this stuff. I'm sure you guys do the same thing. And a lot of times we'll have a vendor that did a drawing, and it's totally off. And you get out there, build up the stuff, and it's wrong. You got to take it down, and those kind of start and stops, huge effect. You guys know, you experience it all the time. Poor coordination by owners, general contractors. I think it's between architects and engineers. It's ridiculous. Slow responses from the members of the team. That's even worse. The architects, I don't get it. They get a fee, and the amount of work they put out is becoming less and less and less, and it affects us. It affects our productivity on the job in a big way. And the lack of available and qualified craft personnel. And this must have been a whole slide because I think that's the biggest thing right now is finding people and training them and getting them up to speed quick enough. And I see a huge, Mike and I were talking about this. There's a huge wave of work coming at the whole Southeast, like I've never seen in my whole career. And all of a sudden, the need for labor is going to be huge. And you're going to have all these green people out there. We did a job in Oxford, Mississippi last year. It's about an $8 million formal-only job. And we were worried about going into Oxford. We got to bring all these people there. They didn't have that many hotels to put people up in. And so we tried a new system that we'd never tried before. And it cut down the need for labor with carpenters. And we had laborers erecting this system very fast, and it didn't require a carpenter. And so we could hire those local guys to come out there and move this stuff. And it very successful job. Had almost a $400,000 labor savings. Our superintendent got a huge bonus and great benefits for figuring all this stuff out. And it's lots of stuff. Like I said before, it's lots of little things. It's not just the system. It's tons of things on the job, and I'll get into all that in a minute. But investing in the crew, number one is planning. I'm going to go over that in detail because that's huge. Communication and using technology. We've got drones now and experiment with drones just to get our project engineers thinking about drones because it gets it on their radar. And then they start learning how to take the drone and produce a movie and put it on our website and just stuff like that you need to allow people to do that and actually ask them to do it. Using different types of equipment. We own all kinds of equipment, but as you guys know, not every type of equipment, form material, should be used on every job. I'll tell you how we capture that in a minute. It requires training and getting the right people on the bus, and that takes leadership, and then measurement and feedback. But the whole thing is focused on the crew. It's stuff that we do in the office, but it's just like safety. You've got to focus on that crew. Removing their obstacles, giving them information. They want to work real hard, but if you're not giving them the right information or you're causing them delays, they're going to stand there. They may even look like they're working. How many guys are being asked to do more with less? Oh, that's crazy. I think it's going to get worse. I think it's not only us, it's all the way down the line, it's all the way down the work. We're going to be asking them to do more. That's a component we got to figure out because it's coming at us fast. When I started doing this, I thought I knew what productivity was. And after 11 years of every week writing a productivity letter. This week's letter was about the eclipse next Monday, because a lot of our guys on the job, they may not even know what an eclipse is. And so, and so I relate that, in current events to productivity, because they look up there in Atlanta, it's a partial eclipse, it's not a full one. If they look up there, they're going to mess their eyes up. How productive are they going to? First, they're going to the doctor. Then they can't see, even if it's temporary. They got spot. My daughter did it. She was looking through a camera, taking a picture of a sunset one time. Whoa, my eye, I can't see, and she's freaking out on me. And I know it happens. And if our guys don't know what's going on, they're going to look up there and they're going to see it. We've got some jobs where the GC is passing out glasses to look at it. And I'm thinking, really? You're going to trust your eyes to it from getting a pair of glasses from the dollar store? No way. And so you got to educate your guys as to what that looks like every single week, something new. And it causes me to be looking, it's constantly on my radar with books. And I'd love for you guys to also be my feet on the ground. I'm going to pass my card around. Feel free to email me. If you see good videos or good books and you're reading a good book about productivity, email me. Or if you want to know a book, email me. I correspond to so many people now, and it's because we all need it. And we need to be sharing information to become better. Well, that differentiates yourself. And I want to give a story of I was the chairman of the board of ABC for Georgia. And I had been on the industry advisory board at Southern Polytech. Jeff went to school there. They have a good construction management program. A lot of industry people from Atlanta help out. And so I wanted to start a student chapter of ABC at Southern Poly. So I went there and they said, hey, can you give your productivity seminar to our students? So they had about 60 students in there. Well, the faculty advisor for the student organizations was the faculty advisor for the competition teams. And she saw this and she goes, oh my goodness, this is really good. Can you come in and teach my students? And I said, sure. So we came in like 2 or 3 days teaching them about productivity. And they went to the Southeast School of Construction competition over in Birmingham that year. There was University of Florida, where I went to school, Auburn, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, all the construction schools in the Southeast. Well, they came up with this idea. They showed the numbers behind creativity for a labor-intensive company. And they said, we're a general contractor. And just like with safety, we have something to gain if everyone's safe on our job, and we have something to lose if they're not. Bad press, whatever. And they said, all these other teams, they're going to understand quality and schedule and all this stuff, but they're not going to understand productivity. And because we do, we're going to make all of our subs 10% more productive. That's our goal. And if they do, they're going to be 100% more profitable. They're going to give us better numbers at bid time, and we will be more profitable because we're going to get more work. Well, they won the competition. And it was so neat. The superintendent and project manager, I was talking to them after, they said it was the neatest thing, walking up, taking that award, and the Florida and Auburn students going, who the heck is Southern Polytech? And what did they do to win this? Well, they had me back, and I gave them a class on creativity and innovation in construction. And showed them all these examples of things that are happening. The Chinese building going up in 30 days. I don't know if you've seen that. And they went to nationals against Purdue, all the regional winners, Purdue, Caltech, and they won the national championship. They differentiated themselves so much. And that's kind of what we've been doing with our customers, is showing them. And it's not every job, it's not every superintendent, because it's a constant struggle trying to get them to be there. But as a company, there is a difference, and people see that. And you're able to differentiate yourself. And that's important as an individual. And I want to encourage you guys as individuals, that you want to become indispensable, the second word. Indispensable means you're bringing more value to your company than they're paying you. If you do that, you'll be the last one left. If they ever have to close the doors, you'll be the last one there. And that's where we want to position ourselves as a company with our customer. We want to be indispensable to our customer so that they're like, well, why would we ever use anybody else? And we had better wait for that. But the last thing is having more fun. And it is fun because when you allow people to be creative, my niece was going to take go into school into art. And I said, art? Really? For real? You can't make any money in art. And I realized the draw to be creative was way more powerful than the draw for money. And so what I've allowed a lot of people to do, in our productivity manual, this is a small version of the productivity manual. We have hundreds of ideas, but we have an idea section in here. All kind of ideas, and now you get $250 for any idea. If the idea is worth going in the book, you get $250. And they build on the ideas. Some of the things that have happened is like one guy came up with, he had a blower to blow off the sawdust off the deck. And so the next guy, he says, if I had a backpack blower, I could be way more productive. And so, I could a backpack blower, And then another guy who works on small engines said, if you watch that operation, because that's what you've got to train your guys to do, is watch operations. Because with safety, it's kind of like a moment in time. It's like you're taking a picture. Is a guardrail up? Is a hard hat on? Is a hole covered? It's an instant in time. And most people are trained to inspect jobs for safety. They're not trained to inspect jobs for productivity. Productivity is square feet per man hour. Or items per man hour. It's over time. You have to train your guys to watch a process, because otherwise you're taking a picture. If you saw a guy walking down the ladder and you took a picture in your mind, oh, he's busy. But if you sat there and watched him and he walked down and he went down to the ground, and this happened on a job that I was on, they had all the porta-johns down on the ground. And it took me 15 minutes to go down and go to the bathroom, 15 minutes to get back. I had to go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times in the morning, The job was behind schedule, and the GC was paying premium time. They're again even causing us to work overtime and lack of productivity. But what he didn't realize, he was paying premium time for our guys to go to the bathroom and didn't even realize it. When I brought it up to our superintendents, the lead man, the stripping foreman, said, well, wait a minute, even on the best jobs, the porta-johns are up at the top level. I've got all the green help. I don't want them going up where it's dangerous. I want them in my sight. I want a porta-john on my level. And we're like, they need to be on every level, It's crazy to think that you can waste that much time just going to the bathroom. And so you've got to watch that process in order to see it. When we started watching those processes, reshoring, we started watching a reshore operation. And we stood there and watched it. And the guys, they brought a bundle of Ellis Jackson and sticking them up. Pretty soon they were walking all the way across the floor to back and forth. Most of their time was spent walking to the bundle. We were like, whoa, we got to change this process. And so we bought steel post shoulders that carry 3 times the load. So it was a 300% improvement in productivity. We had these guys make in China. We designed these racks that you could fit 2 of them on a tractor trailer. Exactly right. You could stack them. You could put casters under them, and you could put U-heads on the top where you could lift them up and adjust them waist high. And they were so heavy, no one wanted to carry them. So you push the cart, you stand one up, push the cart, stand one up. It was a 400% increase in productivity for that one operation. And you can see that you're only trying to get 10% improvement, a 400% increase in just one task. On high rises, we started going down, you'll see in this book, and I'll pass it around. One guy he said, on a high rise, go down and grab all your column forms and bring them up to the top, and then shake them out from up there. Grab all your wall forms, bring them all up to the top. Shake them. Don't use that crane time. And we started looking at other trades too, and things that affected us, like crane time for the rebar guy. We weren't ordering the rebar, but the rebar had come and it was all shifted and jammed, and the guys down there taking the crane, trying to move all this shifted rebar. We're like, spread this out. Same amount of rebar, but just all spread out over the truck. So the guy is really fast. Well, the rebar guy, the installer, is not the guy buying it. It's the GC. So he gets it out there early, goes to the ground, he handles it twice. He's spent all this time and you've got to watch these processes to see, well, where is the problem and do something about it. One thing you'll notice in here is the very first, we had a competition that the very first year and second year, we said whoever saves the most of labor gets an all expense paid trip. Well, the guy that got it, he had a new baby, and he said, I'm gonna wait till next year. Well, he won it the next year too. And we had 5 options. I think you could go skiing or fishing, and he picked the Disney World. He went to Disney World, and he had the best Disney World trip ever. Just he went all the parks down there, he had money, stayed on the site. And he came back and he said, if I win this next year, can I have my lead man go in my place? I'm like, really? That's kind of like a bonus. He says, yeah, that's what I do with my bonus too. I'm like, you give your bonus away? He said, I give half of it. I'm like, I've never heard of anybody giving their personal bonus away. And he said, yeah, that's how I get all the big jobs. That's how I get all the best guys to work for me. That's how I win these awards. That's why I save over $100,000 in labor every year. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And he said, well, that's what you do, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, but I'm the owner of the company. He says, well, I own the job. And I was like, wow, I was so impressed that he got it. And now he's been promoted to general superintendent because he knows how to work people and get them motivated to do what he wants to accomplish. And he becomes indispensable to them. And that's where you want to position yourself. Any questions so far? Can y'all relate to this kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, you see all their heads nodding. Right? Scotty's like, oh yeah, that's happened on my job.
It does. It's all over. It's kind of like buying a new car. When you buy a new car, you see that car everywhere, right? It's weird. And it's kind of like the productivity. When I'm in tune to it now, and I go to the job and I see unproductive stuff, or I see productive stuff, and I'm taking pictures. Constantly learning about it. What can we do next to improve the speed of the job? And you see it with other trades too. Some are really neat ideas. That's weird. Maybe unplug the feed. Never had that happen before. Everybody get a card. I was giving this talk down in New Orleans, and you'll see a slide in a minute about the effects of overtime. And he was doing a Corps of Engineer job. We were doing a lot of flood walls down there, pump stations after Katrina. And he was doing a Corps of Engineer job. And he saw the effects of overtime on my slide, and it was the Corps of Engineers who did the study. And so he emailed me, he said, where'd you get that slide? And I told him there's a book on the effects of overtime by Schwarzkopf, not the General Schwarzkopf, but so he went and he put together a change order, a claim to the Corps of Engineers using the data that they had prepared for themselves. And and it was just through that interaction that it's wonderful when you can relate to someone and help them out like that. There's all kinds of studies that have been done on productivity, effects of productivity. Oh, so sweet.
Hey Laura.
Hey Paul.
You can't bring that weak ass stuff up in this Humpty Bumpy. You kill it, Joe. You make some more. You know that, baby. Else you went for a long day. A long day. Just triple P up in this bitch.
Some people said I was crazy when I brought Terry on board, but I'm a firm proponent of paradigm breaking, outside the box thinking. And since Terry's been with us, our productivity has gone up 46%.
15 minutes ago, bitch. I am an enforcer, man. Don't nothing go down in my house. It's 100% hard, baby. Sure, I check a few fools. I give them the pain. But sometimes it's about intimidation, It's my games. So, I'll see you later.
But what's really impressed me is how Terry's become part of the Belcher family. He fits right in here.
Surprise, man! Happy birthday! As profits increase, the margin reaches a second break-even point here, after which enterprise falls into loss. Any questions? You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Bridget. Thank you, baby. Hey, Janice, motherfucker.
That's not to say he's not sharp. He still does what he does best. Of course, the office environment is, in fact, a violent world, and injuries do occur.
Hey, baby. Pain hurt, baby, that don't faze me. I don't got time for pain. The only pain I got time for is the pain I put on fools who don't know what time it is. Any bitch ass thing I lost a step because of what happened. Because of what happened to my knee and such. Well, he in for a surprise. Oh, pay for surprise.
To be honest, I wish I had 10 Terry takes on tea with Belcher.
I just do my job, man. I do what my God-given abilities allow me to do, and I thank Jesus Christ for it every single day. And do I enjoy what I do? Hell yeah. Get back to the pants, Richard! Get his room! Now! You can't come in my kitchen and kick my dog and take a box full of ballpoints!
It is kind of silly, but it is fun. And I've found that creative people that love to be creative, they're also attracted to a company that allows creativity, because a lot of companies know it's my way or the highway. This is the way we've always done it. We're not doing anything different. And those are the guys that are easy pickings to get and have them come to your company, because they enjoy it. It's fun to them being creative. And we every time someone comes up with a new idea, we promote it at each superintendent's meeting and show it and have that guy come up and talk about it, because we want to give them the honor of being creative and coming up with something new. Part of what we found was that the opportunity for savings happened way before the job started. Here's the process of design, award, pre-construction, mobilize, and the construction actually starts here. Well, after the job starts, there's not much you can do. And so what that tells us is that the sooner in this process that you're awarded a job or we're awarded a job, and if you really do spend that time going through a checklist, going through a schedule, and I'll show you a little tool that we've used for scheduling that has really worked its way down to the field level, that is a way of pre-planning that job and finding the best ways to do things. Part of that is pre-planning the job. We have 5 different meetings, the sales debriefing all the way to the GC meeting with looking at logistics on the job. Where's the crane operating? Where's the laydown area? Where's the trailer? Where's the parking? Where's all this stuff? I know you guys do a lot of this too, but you've got to have a mechanism of making sure that things are gone over, and a checklist is the best way to do it. Overtime. Now, on all these slides, we spend a whole day on each topic. We go through the effects of overtime. We'll go through the numbers behind it. We'll have our guys do a change order. Okay, this is the effects of overtime. And I'll briefly describe this. And this is that U.S. Army Corps of Engineers study that was done. And they showed that if you're 100% productive, not working any overtime, after 1 week of overtime, say you're working 6 tens, you're down about 93%. If you work 2 weeks in a row, you're down to 87%. After the 4th week, you're down to under 80% fact, your men they're worn out. And you guys have seen this, and they're not only worn out on the overtime portion, they're worn out after you do it week after week. The reason it goes down that far is because they're unproductive or less productive on the strength time portion. And then what we found is, even if the GC said, okay, that's enough, and now after all these guys have been working that many hours at a certain pace, it doesn't reset itself. It'll improve a little bit, and we haven't done a study to see, well, what is that? But we have determined that it never jumps back to 100%. And so we will go through these numbers, and we will do, if someone's asking us to work overtime, we don't always charge our customer for the decrease in productivity. And they come to you and say, oh, we'll pay for the premium time. Well, thanks a lot, but what about this 20% drop in productivity? You're going to pay for that too? And they're like, well, you can't prove that, Yeah, we can. There's been lots of studies showing it. We'll show you. And so we have our guys go through those change orders, so at least they know it in their head, and they can argue it, and they can prove it to someone that's asking us to work that kind of overtime. Or we look at our standards, like I was talking about before, and estimating, and they say, this job is going to work 6 tens. Okay, these are the standards. Boom, let's apply this productivity factor to it, so that our bid, and we may not get that job. And that's probably a good thing, because we're not going to lose money on that job. We found that the very first year we implemented, remember you told me we had $1 million labor loss, and a 10% improvement was 100% improvement in profitability. The very first year we had a 400% increase in profitability. And those are big numbers. That's what you're trying to achieve, and it didn't stay that way forever, but there's a lot of low-hanging fruit when you first start. Lots of temperature studies out there. If you go on the internet, there's so many different studies, but this Randolph-County study said that at less than 20 degrees Fahrenheit, the loss of productivity is 50%. Well, remember me showing you how a 10% improvement in productivity was 100% improvement in profitability? It works the other way too. So a 50% drop in productivity is a huge loss. Sometimes the loss at the beginning of a job, you can't even overcome it through the whole rest of the job, because they're trying to get out of the ground, and all these different things that are causing you to be unproductive. Greater than 85%. The loss of productivity is 40%. The optimal range is 50 to 70%. Well, they've got these charts that show effective temperature and wind speed. So if you were working and it was, and everybody knows about the wind chill factor, but you can kind of see this loss. This is an effective temperature. So in other words, if it's 20 degrees outside and it's thermometer temperature here, it's 30 degrees and the wind speed is 20 miles an hour, then you have the effective temperature drops from 30 to 4. You go down here, in this table, this shows the loss in productivity. And so based on humidity, so you bring that effective temperature down and say it's right here at 4, and the relative humidity was 60, you're at somewhere between 75 and 58% of your productivity. So what we do is we'll have our project managers go and look. And if you had a job in Boone, North Carolina, and it's planned for the summer, you bid it based on your standards, taking weather into effect, you bid it at this time period, and it got delayed to the winter time. Well, most people don't go charge anything extra for that delay. They don't even know how to charge for that delay. They don't even know the effect on them for that delay. And so what we do is we have our project managers go through and say, okay, during the summer, it was really hot. So even if the temperature was planned at, you're not 100%, but what are you? And we'll do a sample exercise and have them go through there and say, this is what the productivity, based on our standard and the loss, this is what, go through all the man hours and the total bottom line on your job is this. And now move to this time period. What is that effect on you? And look at the difference and be able to put a change order together based on the difference in those two time periods. So that up here they understand that process and how they go about calculating that. I talked a lot about creativity and innovation. It's really neat to see guys that come up with great ideas. And And they usually build on each other. One will build on the lateral.
Whoa, that's not good.
I need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Telephone.
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me. No, let's do it.
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
You know, it's kind of silly, but you see that. You see sometimes the people that come to fix something is broken. Not only the people that are broken don't get it. We did a job in Nashville. We were working for a baker on a Skanska job, and they crushed all this rock and they put these big old boulders. They just, you know, they backfilled with the crush, and they didn't crush it real fine, so it's a huge boulder. And I went out there, and our guys were, were picking those boulders up because they had to put mud pads down. I'm like, you know, they're causing us to be very unproductive. And what I always tell our guys to do is don't ever go to the contractor. They don't understand this stuff at all. So don't go to them, tell them you're making our guys unproductive. Always go to them and say you're making us unsafe. And so, because they get safety for some reason. Well, on that job, one of our guys, we went to them in a meeting and said, hey, our guys are going to trip over these boulders. And they said, just push them aside. And so we have an ankle injury. Guy stepped on a boulder and twisted his ankle. They called me up. Skanska had a whole room, about 11 people. Their safety guys, they called in the experts. And, you look at this and you think, oh, this is silly. And I go up there and I'm thinking, this is the silliest thing I've ever seen. And I investigated the accident beforehand, get in that meeting, and they go, what is Harcon going to do about this, you guys having accidents out here? And I said, well, you realize you caused it, right? Like, what do you mean we caused it? I said, we told you these boulders were in the way, and you didn't do anything about it. You can walk around boulders. I said, that's not who got hurt. Look out your window. They had 11 porta-johns next to the trailers, a 5-story building. I said, this was a green guy, first time on a construction site. You made him not only walk down ladders across a job site to go to the bathroom, he's never been on a job site. He doesn't know the dangers, the equipment coming and going, and you put minefields in his way. And he trips, and the safety guy was like, whoa, they didn't even see it. And it's like this, and you go to these jobs and you see this, and this is really silly. But when I see it, and it's true, and our guys are getting hurt and unproductive because of the stuff they're doing, and they've got the experts there, and they still don't even see it. And that's how, as a construction industry, we're just so behind. And it's like, when is everybody going to wake up to this stuff? But it's really sad when you do get it, when it's on your radar, and that's all I'm trying to do today. Just get it on your radar, and when you start looking, you start seeing it. We started getting on our workers' radar. We realized that the laborers, some of the carpenters, they didn't understand what a bar chart was. They didn't understand, and even if they looked at it, it may have columns, 3 days. It wasn't very specific. So we started putting together a small plan schedule. Works great for a high rise. I'll pass this around. And you'll see that we have a small plan for every day of the schedule. And this day you're pouring this slab, you're pouring these columns. The next day you're flying these tables. Next day you're working in this pour. And so we would go through, take the general contractors or our customer's schedule, and we put together a small plan schedule. And we put all the items you had to accomplish that day. And then we would, if it would say it was a 7-day schedule, we would do a 6-day schedule, and then we do a 5-day schedule. And we'd see what the constraining factor is. Was it how fast you get a break? Was it how much equipment you had on the job? Was it crane time? We'd go through there and we'd do a resource allocation. And we would look at crane time for every single task that there was out there. And some days it was like, whoa, there's way too much crane time. He needs another crane. And so it was a tool. We gave this to the workers. And all of a sudden the workers were coming up with stuff that we had never seen before. On this job, it was limited by working hours. It was in a residential area. The workers, they said, you know, if we could pour all the vertical the day of the slab pour, we could cut a day out of the schedule. And we're like, yeah, but we don't have enough time in the day. Because of the work hours, they can't come in real early and pour. They had to come in like at 7 in the morning. By the time they finish pouring, we only have till 7 that night. We're not going to get all that vertical done. And so they went back and they came back and said, well, look, how about us doing this? On the wall forms, let's have normally you have the interior of the shaft up and maybe the rebar in it. They said, let's put a hole in the slab and have a trailing whaler come through the hole where the slab is going to be and attach that to the wall so that form is suspended. And so the day of the slab pour, you pump the slabs and then you can go over there and change the mix and pump the walls. And they said for the columns, let's put the cages on and the column form over it, put a 2x4 on the bottom tie, so the day of the pour, after it's poured, all you got to do is you don't have to touch the crane. You just lay out your column, put your temples down, put your 2x4, slide your form down, and once he's finished pumping the walls, change the mix, pump this slab. You never touch the crane the whole day of the slab pour, and you get it all done. Like, that's really good. Well, one of my general superintendents and I went to Chicago. One of our suppliers took us up there to a 93-story building. They were building a loose form, but they were getting 4 days per floor. We're like, well, we got to figure this out. How are they getting 4 days per floor? And he was one of the ones that figured out how to put that hole in the slab. The problem with that is we got a big hole to go fix. We walk over to this Perry wall form with a Perry wrap, and he notices it. He goes, there's a taper tie holding that form up. And they had taken a taper tie, cut it in half, put a little bracket on the wall, and that taper tie went down and just set on the slab plywood so that that form could be held up, that when you go to strip it, you just lift it with the crane, and because there's a taper tie, it comes right out of the slab. And it goes, sets down. I'm like, that's brilliant. I turned to the Perry guy, I said, did you design that? He goes, no, I've never seen that. And it was, when it's on your radar and you pick up those little things, even the Perry guy didn't notice it, but it's a brilliant idea, And so even though we had moved from, but in our concept of ability to hold that form to the wall, it still wasn't as good as that. And so we improved it a whole other step. And that's how you make little incremental changes. It's not big revolutionary changes. It's you build on ideas, and if you don't start that process, you'll never get to the point where someone comes out and, wow, this is really cool. How'd you get there? Well, it was all these little steps that got you there. So it finally became a tool that the guys on the job site could look at. They loved it. They finally had a tool. We would laminate them and put them on the trailer, so the guys knew the goal every day. They'd go, and if that column wasn't poured and the GC had to pour it, then he delayed the job that day. So it became an accountability tool to where we started putting these little booklets together. We'd have a picture. Was each of these columns poured? Every day you had a tool that everybody had to live by. It was their accountability. You get the rebar in this column, whatever it was. It was finally a tool, and it was a good documentation tool of every single day. And what was really, really neat was we were teaching all of our superintendents at our superintendent meetings to do this. The first superintendent, they put it together, they broke out into teams. The next one, it was go down to 5 days, go down to 4 days. And then the next one was the crane resource, and they were doing it. Well, one of the superintendents, he went back to his job site. He had a 35-story he was building for Braswell Glory. And he did that with his men, resource allocation, but it was specific men. It was Juan and Jose are going to pour columns, and they're going to go to beam sides, and and this guy's going to go do this. And so he realized, wow, I need to work everybody these strange hours. So he went to the GC superintendent and said, I want to work all my men their own schedule. They'll be coming and going throughout the day. It's not like a 10-hour day, then an 8-hour, then a 6-hour for everybody, because there's a lot of wasted time there. I want to work and he's like, look, I've been doing this a long time. And our superintendent said, well, it'll cut a day out of your schedule. He said, well, I'll let you try it this floor. And we did that floor, cut a day out, next floor. Into the job, he came with $50,000 and said, you guys saved me a ton of money. I want this to go to the men too. And so we got, well, the next job he had, it was another high rise. It was us in Southern Pan. And he goes, I want Harcon. We had differentiated ourselves so much to him that there was no question. He knew we were going to be doing that job. It didn't matter the price. It was all about differentiating yourself. And that's the point I want to get across today is you guys individually, if you can differentiate yourself amongst all your peers, your company against other people, you'll be so successful. You'll make more money. And I have people all the time coming up, and I'll go to a job site, how do I make more money? I'm like, and I'll show them, you've got to differentiate yourself. And this is what that looks like. And you've got to get that to the worker to help him understand. Take drawings home at night. Take the safety manual. Take the productivity manual. Ask questions. Don't just do like everybody else does and show up and expect to learn it on a daily basis, because it just takes too long, or you're going at the same rate that everybody else is. Any questions about this? Or quiet bunch.
Where is that, man?
Get it.
The little man you're messing around, that
Eric's
around.
going through it? All right.
It's coming around.
Oh.
Yeah.
The other thing is optimum crew size for every task. The way I taught this in our superintendent's meeting, I had 2 tables, long tables on either side of the room. And one side I had empty 5-gallon buckets. On the other I had buckets of nails. I had a crew of 1, crew of 2, crew of 4, crew of 8. And I said, go. They had to take a nail out of this bucket, walk across the room, and put it in that bucket. The crew of 8, they're getting it. And we get done, and we count the number of nails they passed in a certain amount of time. Put it up on the board. So, all right, who's the most productive? Almost everyone in the room said the crew of 8. And I said, well, that's not how you count productivity, it's numbers. You count productivity as square feet per man hour or items per man hour. So you divide by the number of people in your group. We did, and it was this perfect curve. Fortunately, it worked exactly how I thought it would, because the crew of 1, he spent all his time walking back and forth. The crew of 8, even though there are 8 of them, they weren't as efficient as the crew of 4 that could, do almost as fast with half the number of people. And so what I showed our guys is what happens on the job site is the GC, or the customer, will come to you and say, I want more people I want you to bring more people out here. Well, what have they done? They pushed you down this curve. They got more work done. They pushed you from a crew of 4 that was efficient to a crew of 8. They got more work done, but it affected your productivity. He doesn't care about your productivity. But you need to know, well, wait a minute, now what is the answer to this? If a column crew is 2 people, then and you know that, and every task on the job has an optimum number of people, whether it's a wall form, flying trusses, whatever it is. And so what you need is go to him and say, no, optimum crew, column crew is 2 people. Let's get a whole other column crew. And that means, you're going to have to lay this out faster, you're going to have crane support, whatever it is, or if it's slab material, you've got to have more material, but you have to have all kinds of resources. It's not just about you sliding down this curve. Any questions on that? I'm sure you see it too, but unless you're looking at the numbers, most people's thought is, oh, it's that crew of 8 that's the most productive. And it's not. Just because they're getting more work done doesn't necessarily mean that they're the most productive. But it's a big thing. That's why I want to make sure I'm real clear on this. The actual need for workers varies throughout the day as tasks are completed and workers are reassigned. To optimize productivity, the extra workers should be reassigned to tasks that don't affect the existing crews. So if you've got that, you know that you've got a 2-man common crew. You yourself, all of a sudden you've got a guy that comes free. What do you do with that guy? Well, if you just put him on another, if you're just working, if every man's not working their own schedule and you're working an 8-hour day, you get a guy that's done. And usually what you do is you go on that column crew and help them get the columns done. If you just move them down that curve, they're going to be less productive. What you need to do is plan for that event to happen and save some work. Maybe there's some curbs that need to be poured. The GC, I need to get these curbs. No, we're going to wait on those curbs. So that when this occurs, instead of moving down that curve, you're reassigning these workers to tasks that you've already saved for them to make the whole crew more effective. The total crew size needed varies by day, which builds that unproductive time. So you may have day of the poor sometimes. It's a 1-pour scenario, and 1 pour per floor. And for a former guy, the day of the poor, there's nothing to do unless you're pre-planning. Okay, well, how do I combat that? What have I saved for that day? And whether it's the vertical, how can I do the vertical the day of the poor? Can I bring them in later? Can I do? And so there's ways of figuring out I know this is going to happen. How do I pre-plan this before the job even starts and work those kind of details out? The impact of the loss of learning. I did a sample like this with our guys. I passed out a piece of paper and I said go. And they went from number 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, 7. Well, the learning curve, it really is a curve. It's a logarithmic curve that lots of studies have been done. We all learn at a certain rate. And it's different rate for different people, but it's a rate for you. And so I did this example with them. And I had them do it once, timed it. They put the number they got to, and then we did it again. And then we did it again. We did it 3 times. And we averaged all the numbers. Well, the whole group got better and better at it. So we said, well, okay, that's what happens on the job site. How are we going to take advantage of that knowledge? And so we came up with documenting anytime we have a new system. And so I'm showing this to Mike beforehand. This is a column mounted shore system. Column mounted shore system, you have big jacks on the columns. You fly these tables in and they rest on the column. You don't need reshores, don't need shores. So not all of our guys were familiar with the system. We've done it maybe 15 times. So we want to capture that information. Well, the information the supplier sends you is a little marketing disc, It's not all the productivity. They'll tell you it's crazy productivity. It's like, okay, you're not taking into effect going to the bathroom, walking down the trailer. So we started looking at every time we had a new system, we would document it. And we put the small plan schedule together. We would take videos of all the little tricks that they learned, and maybe over several different jobs, and video those tricks, and how do you make it faster? We would take the drawings, we'd take pictures, and then we'd have the supplier come in and put his stuff, talk about it, and people would ask him questions, and we'd bring everybody to that job. And like a meeting like this, we would bring you all to a job that had a column mounted shore system. So they go out there, they get the manual, they get the talk, we go to the job, and they see it. What that does is it increases the learning curve so that the next job that they do, now they have a lot of information. We start putting estimates and labor reports in there too, so that the next guy that's estimating, he knows what was done, what was estimated, and how it executed. So that you capture that information to reduce that learning time And so we're constantly trying to look at new ways of doing that and learn to be more productive through the learning curve. Well, one thing that happens is, here's a job in blue. It's scheduled for 19 weeks. And all of a sudden, the job is delayed 4 weeks. Well, you got a certain amount of work to do, right? That's fixed. So you've got now a new curve of the man hours that are going to be expended, because you need more men now to accomplish that same amount of work in a short period of time. That's more men to go through the learning curve. There's a decrease in productivity. You have to understand it. When they squeeze your schedule, they need to understand when they squeeze your schedule, they're causing you to be less productive just because of the learning curve. And a lot of these things, they overlap. Okay, now I've got this, now what do I do to combat that? Well, I need work overtime. Well, what does work overtime do? It causes you to be less productive. So they combine and they build on themselves to where all of a sudden you've got a job that would have been a good job, and all of a sudden it turns into a bad job, and you're, what happened? You know, that's usually what happens. You get to that job, what happened? And you don't really know. But unless you understand all the effects that could be happening, you're kind of clueless. Stacking of trays, there's lots of studies on the stacking of trays, and they showed it to be effective, to be 100% effective, you need a little more than 300 square feet per worker. And you guys know that as your amount of space per worker goes down, these studies show that you could be, if you get down to 100 square feet per man, you're 50% of your production rates. And so as a GC, you know, they're constantly pushing trades on top of you. Or you may even be doing it to yourself, you know, you got a slack crew around a column crew, you know. And so you need to understand, hey, I need to spread these guys out. Can I have them come in at different times and do this work? Or have another trade do his work at a different time, so that they don't stack people on you, because there's inefficiencies of not having enough space to work in. Giving them the right tools. Again, it's kind of funny, but I go out there sometimes with some tools sometimes. I think Jeff saw them on a job recently, and they had a hammer and a little chisel chiseling some pans out. And Jeff was like, whoa, you need a chipping hammer up there to get those pans out. Let me go get you one, and got him a battery-powered little chipping hammer. He didn't need much, he just needed to clear some concrete away from those pans. And, you know, I go to the job day before yesterday, and there he is with a chipping hammer. And I'm like, hey, that's neat, battery-powered. And he had the right tool for the job. Jeff recognized it, got him the right tool, and now that job is running smoother for that one operation. Giving them iPads. All of our superintendents have iPads now that put all their drawings downloaded. You guys probably do the same thing. Accidents. Accidents are a big deal.
I don't know about you, but I hate Mondays.
Oh, no! It's the architect. You know, that happened on your job. Can you imagine the loss in productivity? Everybody would be talking about that. You know, even when one of your guys gets hurt, it's usually your head guy that needs to be there is taking him to the hospital, taking him to the doctor. And he can't be there to make sure everything's going well. And just even something like this, they're going to talk about that for days. Did you see that? Can you believe it? And they're talking about it, which decreases productivity. So the more productive you are, the fewer people you really need on the job, and the fewer people that are going to get hurt, and thereby increasing your productivity even more. Logistics are huge, like I said. Figuring out where to lay down areas, where's parking, where's all the stuff. Spend time not only accepting what the GC tells you, but analyzing, well, why does the crane operator, where's the outrigger going to be? Because the crane operator, if he sees the outrigger and he can take a load, it's going to be faster than if the outrigger's on the other side of the building and he has to reach over some way and he can't see it. Or lots of little things like that you need to go through every single task that's going to be happening and figure out, well, how do I make this happen? We had a GC in New Orleans. He said, I want you to pour the vertical. We said, that's fine, we can pour the vertical a lot. He said, I I want you to clean up the concrete trucks when they come in for the vertical pours. And so we said, okay, we will. We won't charge you for that. Well, his site, his logistics were so bad, he brought the truck in a muddy site. New Orleans, the mud is terrible down there. Brought it in, and then he had to go out, down the street, and back in to wash the trucks out on the other side of the job. And now it was in our contract, we had to spray the streets down. Well, our idea was let's spray them, as they come out or whatever. There wasn't water there. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And now he put this, we had not gone through all this thinking, and now we had 2 or 3 guys doing nothing but cleaning streets and concrete trucks and stuff that we didn't even charge for. And the logistics sometimes can kill you if you're not paying close attention to those details. It takes measuring. We came up with a system of measuring weekly the production rates. And so you have an estimated production rate. There's your standard, 20 square feet per man hour. And you start, if each week you're looking at it, and you can do it by job too. And when we did it by job, we came up with something that was a measurement against each other. So we have a superintendent's meeting, and you know how an experience mod for safety, 1 is the industry standard. Anything above 1, you're worse than the industry. Anything below 1, you're better than the industry. And we did the same with productivity. So 1, it was just the opposite. Anything above 1 meant you're 33% better than the estimate. Here you're 82% below the estimate. And so what we did, we started giving an award. Every superintendent meeting, we put them up there. This is where you guys rank. And that way you could, because every job has different productivities, but it was a way of comparing the productivity on their job to another job, because you were comparing it against the estimate. And so then we decided, wait a minute, we want to foster productivity improvement. So we looked at from one time period to another. If you have this at this time period, and you have it at this time period, and they went from 0.82 to 1, they had a 20% increase in productivity, we wanted to reward that. So we gave rewards then for not just the job. These guys got a labor bonus. These guys didn't. But we want to incentivize them that even though they're bad, if you have a certain improvement over a 3-month time period, we're going to give you a reward just for doing that. So, and that fosters productivity improvement. Always be trying to improve. Well, it's a balancing act. If you're really high on processes and procedures and low on leadership, you got low productivity. Just the opposite, you got low productivity. And it's kind of like McDonald's. You can go into McDonald's, they have amazing processes and procedures. They can get a high school kid to make a Big Mac anywhere in the world, and it comes out the same. Great high on process. But there's no creativity, no improvement in the process, no improvement. So what we did, we started having these competitions. We bring guys to the yard, and they have say a kicker. We have an edge form kicker. Say it's a flat slab, and we have the whole way of doing it, just putting a little kicker down. We have a crew of superintendents putting that in. And then we have somebody come up with a new way, call it the sailboat. And it was a piece of plywood with a 4x6 on it, where all you had to do is just nail down that piece of plywood, and you don't have a kicker. I mean, it acts as a kicker, but you're nailing straight down. You keep the nail in it, and just and it was way faster. And we showed it, and the guys were like, wow, send me some of these sailboats out here on my next job, because that's quick. Well, what we did, we changed as a company. This is the old way of doing it. Now this is the new way of doing it. So you don't just it's not a free-for-all. Everybody is doing everything they want to do. No, you've got to have some processes that this is the way we do things, and until we come up with a better method, we're going to do that. But if you can come up with a better method, we can let people try some things, and if they can prove it, then by all means, let's change our process. The goal is to identify maybe 2 or 3. You can't just all of a sudden, boom, just huge productivity culture. You got to start working on it slowly. You got to coordinate it with lots of different entities, actually. But work on the big ones. We gave a good example, some of you may have seen this, of a big glass jar, and we had, I've seen it done with rocks, but we had beans and tennis balls. And the big items were the tennis balls. And we filled up, first we filled up with the beans, and then if you put the tennis balls in, you got all these extra tennis balls. Those are the big things you need to be working on. The little things are the stuff that interrupt your day, your emails, your phone calls, your letters you gotta write, all these little things that absorb your attention. But you got a big thing. You guys that are estimators know, you got an estimate to do. If it's late, it's not worth anything. You can work on it for a week, and then at the end of that, if you're late getting that estimate, you better be working on that estimate, that big estimate, because you got a time frame. And that's the way it is with productivity improvements. You've got some big things that you need to work on. And then what we would show them is if you work on those big things at the same time and pour those beans in, then you get all those big items, all those tennis balls in that thing with all the beans. You can accomplish it all because you have enough time. It's just a problem. Then you pour beer into it and you say, you even have time and fill up, have time for a beer afterwards. And it's visuals like that sometimes get the point across. And so lots of this stuff, we've come up with visuals of how to train your guys so it's interesting. And then you figure out what the roadblocks are and obstacles, and how you overcome them. Plans, that's part of your planning process. That's the last one. Any question you guys have for me? You got my attention. Thank you.
What were the taper ties on the bottom of the Perry? Was it Perry Trio?
It was actually a mixture. They had several different. They had made a form with several different forms. I don't remember exactly which ones they used,
But you could put that paper tie on the bottom.
you can put it on anything.
Perry,
Yeah.
Trio, and
Right.
And then they just greased it, just like pulling out of the wall. They just lifted the wall.
Lift the whole panel up and
popped right out.
they didn't even have a shore. I went below to see, did they have a shore under where that wall, are you gonna punch through the plywood?
Yeah.
But they didn't, they just set it right on the plywood deck. Wow. And then all they had to patch was the taper tie hole. It wasn't a big hole like we had.
Right.
How's your turnout for these Saturday meetings? Honestly,
Say it one more time.
how's your turnout for these Saturday meetings? Like these superintendents?
They weren't good. Good question. We started changing it. Mike and I were talking about this earlier. We started holding them on Fridays because we let the lead men run the job and the superintendents would come. We have a back-to-back Thursday project manager meeting and a Friday superintendent's meeting. The project managers go to the superintendent's meeting, the general superintendents go to the project manager's meeting. And we teach a little bit different stuff. Like this past one, everybody came to Atlanta. We had a talk on silica. And then we had DeWalt come out and show all the new tools, the HEPA filter system and stuff. And so, because that's more, everybody sees that. There were some other, we had our lawyer come in to the project manager meeting and talk contract terms and teaching them. So it's something that is probably useful for the superintendents, but we already had a full day for them. So we found during the day, their work day is better.
What's the recurrence of the quarterly?
We have quarterly.
Oh.
And then we, like this one next week, Louisiana is having their own, Birmingham and Nashville having their own, and then Atlanta's having their own. So that way, and what they do is they're having on a Friday half a day, so they bring all the foremen too. So we like to have them different places so that they can bring the foreman, because when we have the full one, there's 35, 40 people, and it's in Atlanta, and it's just a lot of time to get there, it's a lot of expense.
So you travel in different,
So yeah, periodically we'll travel around every place. Yeah. And then we can include the foreman. And then we hold it on Friday so that they can work maybe 4 10s, and then everybody comes. Good question.
Hey Mike, you talked about learning curve. obviously a lot of the pictures you're showing us here, high rises, 15, 20 stories, get through the learning curve after a couple levels, and then you're kind of, rocking and rolling. I know, some of the smaller scale projects, right, that even, obviously you guys are participating in those, we're getting some proposals on those, even in Charleston, but, to kind of minimize that learning curve, you guys actually limit the number of different formwork systems you use, so that maybe you don't have a learning curve on a project, but you're jumping from project to project, smaller projects, and using similar systems.
Usually the smaller projects, we're using our own equipment. We've got a lot of Ellis stuff, we've got trusses, we've got a lot of Waco high-load, aluminum beam, and we've got engineers in-house that design that for us, and those guys are real familiar with that. So on a cut up or 1 or 2 use job, we won't go get an expensive system.
Sure.
But we try to match the system to the job. So the bigger the job, usually the more money. Not always the case. Sometimes you have to go after it really hard, and there's other factors that go into it. The availability of workforce in a Wilmington area or wherever you may be. Lots of factors that go into it, but you want to have as few workers as you can. I have another one I didn't show you. It's a thing with numbers also, and I came out and I gave them that with all these numbers. I said go. And, there's no instruction, and they're like, well, so some of them just started going 1 to 2 to 3, and so then I said, all right, put your time down there. What I wanted you to do was go, 1, 2, 3. Well, why didn't you tell us? Just hold on. And I said, now I'm telling you, go from 1, 2, 3. So they did it again, and they went 1, 2, 3, and they timed themselves. And then the next time I said, all right, now I divided into quadrants. I said, if you'll notice, when it goes for the upper left quadrant, it goes to this quadrant here, then it goes to this quadrant, then it goes to this quadrant, and then it goes to this quadrant. Now do it again. And they did it. And, it was half the time. I gave them just half the time. And then I asked them their numbers, and they went twice as fast. So they got through twice as many numbers in half the amount of time. And so I said, well, why is that? I said, it's because I gave you no instructions, I gave you some instructions, and then I gave you full instructions. And that's what it looks like to your men when you give them no instructions, partial instructions, or full instructions. And that's exactly what your men are experiencing. So when they go to a job and they don't have full instruction, they're doing like on that paper. And so I try to find those hands-on type things to get that point across. They're all, I gotta bring this to my men, and because they want to show it to them that it's very important, even for the lead men, to understand that the guys want to work. All the superintendents in the room wanted to work. I just didn't give them the instructions. And so that learning curve is something that we've all got to be training the people under us. And I'm always looking for ways. If y'all ever come up with stuff like that, I'd love to see it. So, people send that kind of stuff to me. Yes, that's great. That's good stuff. I don't invent it all, but I sure use it when I can. Any other questions?
There's a lot of, I'm sorry. This is a lot of stuff available in Spanish, so you find it to be a challenge.
I have a guy that has translated my productivity letter each week in Spanish, so that we can, all the guys, they can read it on the job site, pass it around, and then also, we've started doing monthly, every month, we pick one guy, it's a worker, it's not a superintendent, it's one worker that we want to highlight as the guy that gets it, and we interview him. We put his picture on there, and we highlight it, and we pass that out to the whole company. So now all of a sudden he's getting recognition, and they see their peers getting recognition, and it's in English and Spanish, so they can read a little blurb about who he is, what his family is, where he's from, and then they start asking him questions about productivity, and what does he see? How can Harcon do things better? And some of the ideas were great ideas, and it's a way of honoring them and getting them motivated to do even better stuff.
So I guess you guys do formwork, we do turnkey and have formwork contractors work for us. So one of the things I've seen, I'm trying to translate that into what I do so I can better at it is, work that's not ready. There's a lot of times, especially formwork, you guys put the formwork up and then a rebar guy puts the rebar in there and you guys close it up. How do you track and become more efficient in eliminating wasted time waiting for someone to get something ready? Because I've been watching SDS and a lot of times, you know, we say, okay, you guys pull the lead panels up here, this time period we put the rebar in and then you guys close it. And we put the rebar in and we get a different inspector that he comes out, looks at it, says it's good, you guys can go close it. So they say, okay, tomorrow we're gonna close it at this time. And the next day, a different inspector shows up, he goes, no, you guys can't close that, we've got chairs in here. So when you guys do your production chart, you see, well, this guy's got 0.82% under bid. A lot of that time, I think this guy's fighting with the inspector. How do you track and kind of eliminate this?
It's very difficult, and a lot of times we'll cut down on the number of men on the job because it's very important to go the speed of the job. Because a lot of times it's other trades. You may have a rebar guy; he's got 3 guys out there. He's trying to build a job with 3 guys, and you show up with 24 more guys, and then you can't go that speed. So we pare down and try to go at the speed of the job because and what we found is some of our customers that really get productivity, they don't care about what the numbers are. They're going to get the team. And we've even had some GCs that they want the exact team. They got this building, they're going to go to another building, and they go to all the subs and say, I want everyone on this job that's worked together as a team to go to this next job. And yeah, it may cost them, it's not a competitive bid, but especially if it was a negotiated job, they can do that. But a lot of the guys, the general contractors that get what you're talking about, they know the job for them is going to go a whole lot faster than, even if they pay a little bit better, they've got certain subs and men within those subs that have learned to work as a team, and the end result is they make a lot more money. And not many generals get that. Every job is unique, and you're right, that doesn't happen very often. But when it does, we've seen it happen. When it does happen, and sometimes you need to even promote that and say, and we ask, who's doing the rebar? Who's doing who you got as all these questions, because we want to know before the job starts, is it going to be one of these start stop, and just kill you? And a lot of times our customers get us in there before the job's ready. There's a certain amount of footing in there, and we're ready to go. We're anxious, like a racehorse. All of a sudden the bell goes off, and it's just really, and it's blamed on everything. This, the weather, the whatever. It just kills you. And you want to have a good job. You pre-planned it. You've done everything. Yet some external force it works right. And that was happening a lot in New Orleans to us, and that's why we want to go teach our guys. We'll get it on your radar. This is how to improve it.
Are you guys having luck with actually getting paid for these change orders?
No, very rarely. But we want it in our guys' minds, especially at the time of the estimate. Our project managers are the same as the estimator. So even Jeff, he'll estimate a job, he'll manage a job, as well as customer service and everything else. So our guys are kind of in tune with it when they're estimating a job as to what standards are, and there's a lot of continuity. This is what was discussed before the job. This is what happens during the job. And so we found that we went that way of having separate estimators, and it just seemed like it just wasn't, you didn't have that continuity. So we went back to having our project managers be the estimators.
So, but at least it's out on the table. You guys get it out there.
It's in their mind.
Something that the schedule slips, and you're doing this temperature analysis.
Yeah. And they can show, and I'm sure, Jeff, you probably had times when you tried to charge for that.
You get it out there. I mean, at least it's you submit it, and if it's 20 grand or 50 grand, or if it's something that's hanging out, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to cut cards with these guys.
Yeah, and my only real effective tactic to get it is to be able to negotiate it. Like when they come to us want us to work overtime, that premium time that I estimate, I go ahead and ding it for 20% and say, this is what the rate's gonna be. And then that way I've got something covered where I'm just not eating anything, eating loss. And that's really the only effective way I've found to capture that, is it's got to be upfront. I don't have any luck coming back after the fact and say, hey, you know, I've exceeded my labor budget by $55,000. You know, here's this back charge, and you know, they look at it and file it away.
Yeah.
And that's
I mean, it works better when we don't try to get it necessarily from our customer, but it's going to the owner. We try to go help our customer fight that battle, because we may know more about how to go defend him than our customer does, and so we'll get with them and say, here's what we've done.
What it may deter it, I mean, I could see it at least being an educated pushback to some of these construction managers and these guys that are forcing you to work unproductively, or man up, or work overtime.
I think another thing it does, though, too, it differentiates you. The GC's project manager has all these subs, they're all delayed, and you've got one that's bringing data to you, showing this is how we're delayed, these are the numbers, and they've never seen it. And they're like, wow. So in their mind is these guys are on top of their game. And it's a differentiation. If you can just accomplish that, I think maybe you get the next job because you differentiate yourself. So you may not get it on that job, but just understanding productivity, there's lots to benefit from that.
Y'all are doing that visual schedule.
The small plan schedule?
Yeah, small plan schedule. Y'all do that on your project?
No. It's hard to do on a job where you just got, we did one at UAB, Horde Construction had us do it because we did a parking deck in Puerto Rico for them, and where it was multiple, the boards were very similar, and we did it on that job. So the superintendent became their general superintendent, and he loved it. And so he made us do it every single board. And then he used it as a documentation tool. He took our stuff, put his name on it, but they were taking the picture. That's where we got the idea of the picture. They were taking a picture, they were putting a documentation manual together, and they went to the construction manager and said, here's our documentation. And it had the plan for the day and the picture of the actual for the day. And, it made him look good. And we were okay with it, even though he just put Harcon on it and took our name off with his. It was added value to our customer but it was a lot of work, on a complicated job.
We've done like really fast-paced jobs. We're trying to go day by day. Here he is, and had one where it kind of followed it, and another where it just went totally. We got delayed some areas, had to go right with tracks, and the project manager had to redo it about 8 times.
And we've done that with little wall jobs even. We'll have a superintendent. We like to hire B-level super. We'll do all size jobs. We'll do we got a $150,000 wall job going on right now, and we got an $8 million job. And we'll do anything in between. And the reason is we can take a superintendent, a foreman, that may be a foreman for Southern Pan, they don't do any small jobs. So we can go to them, get a B-level foreman, they bring their whole crew with us, and now we made them a superintendent, gave them a truck, and all of a sudden, they're being trained. They have to stay there 10 more years to become a superintendent. All of a sudden, we gave them that opportunity. They're bringing their crew, we're training them to do this. So even on the small jobs, we'll train them to do it. And they'll look at each pour, where are the forms going from here to here, how do I be more productive? And you get out there and, some preventing, there's a duck bank in the way. You got to go over here. Like, really? I thought this was the plan. At least it's in their mind. It makes them think through where the forms are going, where the pours are going. You can even do it on a good wall job. Any others?
What else, guys? Come on, Kirk. Can't tell me you don't have any questions.
You got one eye. Where's the referee?
It's not right there where you need it, right? Like on the job site.
Restrooms all the way, it's way too far. We have a porta john right outside the door.
Thank you so much for having me. We'd love to do more of your work. When you get in a bind and need a good formal company to come in and do it, we'll be glad to help you guys out and develop that relationship with you.
You're looking at a package, you're the former contractor, you've got a GC
GC has got the rebar and everything. How much crane time do you, in your mind, go, okay, four packages, 50%, 50%, 80%, versus the rebar guy getting 20 or 30? Because I run into issues with other companies having, hey, I need to train 200% of the time.
And we're finding that on the stick build project where it's a podium slab, and all of a sudden, you're not done with your podiums, and the stick guy's there, and he's, like, are you kidding me? You've got a ton of picks, and it takes a lot of crane time, and so we come up, but see, we don't understand the stick stuff like we really should. We haven't been exposed to it that much, and so, but we do know from experience that it's going to happen. It's those kind of unknowns that usually get you. Usually with the rebar guys, our teams work. It's just when the GC forces something like that, a precast picks on the side of the building or something that you hadn't planned for, and all of a sudden it's taking way more crane time.
So you guys just qualify a percentage or hours, or
we just put anything in there? We always in our contract.
Go ahead. I think in our proposal, we've got a blurb, unlimited crane usage, and that's, that's our dream.
Yeah. 27 hours a day.
He's what he's talking about. I'm dealing with it right now, and it is a constant battle because you've got a rod buster that's coming out. He's ordering his truck a day early, and he's setting it on the ground, and then he's picking it twice. So he's using twice the amount of crane he should be using because he's not planning ahead. And whenever I start running that upstream, all I get back, everybody's got to work together. Yeah. That's not the answer. It's everybody's got to work together smart. And that's, it's a big problem. I just had to set out and take another call. I'm leaving today at 2. There won't 4 columns at 2 instead of 4. I'm like, go home. It gets frustrating.
What do you guys do in that situation? If you're running into it where I'm looking at Scotty and Josh, we've had this problem where former contractor X is saying, I need to train 7 hours a day. If you don't give it to me 7 or 8 or whatever the number is, I can't meet my durations. It's your fault. I'm not hitting my durations and you're delaying the job. Y'all actually set a chart up and goes, all right, you get to train for this 30 minutes, this rebar guy, you get this period of time, or how do you guys handle that?
That's what, we try to do so that we can schedule things and everybody can get done what they need to get done. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. It's always an emergency. If something shows up 3 hours early or, do anything like that. We try to work together to schedule that out. And, our critical times for that training is first thing in the morning and then, that afternoon, that evening. And so we're stopping the deck for the next day, moving equipment. And it's a coordinated effort from everybody.
Yeah. And it's probably also when you're going to the job, picking the former system.
Yeah.
That's not
crane intensive. That's right. And we have 1 crane instead of 2. Sometimes we'll not fly something just because with the new system
we may be more efficient for you, but it's going to be totally.
We did that on a job in New Orleans. They had it was us and Seco, and we did a customer we never used. It was a 19-story, and they had a power lines. They had existing buildings, and so we said, we would use a TLS, Delta TLS system. Are you familiar with it? It has the outrigger that's an elevator.
Yeah.
And so we went to them and said, hey, we can use this other system. It's $100,000 more. I said, but it'll cut 3 days per floor out of your schedule as opposed to the Ellis jacks. And they were like, whoa, that's the, and we said, plus it doesn't require another crane. And so they said, good. Well, these panels are like 8 by 16, and we would push them out. Well, we accomplished that. We met their schedule, and we've done every single job for that company ever since then. And it's because we differentiate ourselves. We saved them money, but even though they paid more for it, and they were willing to pay for it, they still saved a lot more money. But the big thing was the time.
Yeah.
And that's the case. I think the job that you were looking with about Radion, sometimes it's not about the cheap number. It's about the speed, because money has become such a big issue now that the faster you can go, the better. And that's one reason I go to like New York and Chicago to see how these guys get in 4 schedule, you know, with a loose system. That's crazy numbers, you know, and you need to learn from that and be able to, because it's coming at us. I mean, when you look at those videos of those Chinese building a 15-story building in 30 days, it's like, wow, if they can do that over there, they can do that over here. You know, we better figure out how to make things go faster. We're gonna get left behind.
Yeah, and I think, both sides of these jobs that are not playing that way, or really good 6-month jobs or 9-month job, and then same type of job, get done in 6 months. Just kind of pre-training.
Pre-planning and pre-makeup stuff.
Yeah, changing design a little bit.
In my creativity and innovation and construction seminar, I show a lot of that stuff, and a lot of them, you know, out in Vegas, they had, on the hotels, they were taking these pods of everything in that room and putting it in that hotel room. And they're flying it up so that everything they needed was right there. Well, Skanska had a job in Miami, Ohio, and in a hospital. And they decided they were going to try to do that on that job. And it was for the head walls. They first started with the head walls, but it has all this pipe and stuff. So they made it in a factory, and then they brought them out there and they put them in place. Then they decided to do the tracks, the HVAC tracks and stuff. And they had it all BIM, you know, all labeled. They're making it all, and that job went crazy fast. So after that job, we were in a job with them down in Louisiana, near LSU 2 Center. The reason they got that job is they differentiated themselves. They said, we're going to do this, you know, again on another hospital and take it to a whole other level. And so they had differentiated themselves by doing that pre-planning and that build-up in a factory instead of out on the job site. And they touted as being more safe, more productive, and they're getting more jobs because of it.
Yeah, everybody lost their butt on that job too. Miami Valley Hospital.
What about it?
Everybody lost their butt on that.
They did, yeah. I heard that. We bid it, we didn't get it, but I heard it was a good thing we didn't. Why, were you working down there? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a prison beat up.
Yeah. Were you working with Seco? Oh, I'm not talking about the VA. Oh, you were talking about the one I'm talking about. You were working on the VA hospital for Baker, yeah, right next door. Gotcha. Anything else?
What else, guys?
All right, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate
really
it. Look forward
appreciate
to working
it.
with you.
Awesome. Very impressive.